just gonna put my foot on the floor and I'm not lifting till I see God or a checkered flag.
Hello, and welcome back to Racing Thoughts, an IndyCar podcast. I'm Megan Dennis.
And I'm Meg Taylor.
And we're back, a little bit off schedule. School has started. Life is busy.
Life is busy, y'all.
We did say we'd be back sometime around Milwaukee, and technically that's not wrong. It is after Milwaukee that we are recording. Unfortunately, it will be the end of the season when y'all are listening to this next Monday.
That is devastating to think about. I cannot believe that the end of the season is like right here.
Like 7 months of off season?
That makes me want to vomit. 7 months is disgusting.
My math could be wrong. I didn't count, but that feels right in my heart. Too many.
Yeah, 7. I don't know if this just caught on camera, but it absolutely was counting on my hands. Elementary school vibes.
All right, so
Sorry.
to ensure that we do not get too off track, because that's not our podcast, you can go listen to our friends at Off Track if that's more your vibe.
Hey, shout out.
They don't know we exist, except they do because they follow us on
Dude,
Instagram.
follow us. And you know what? What popped up on my memories and like my photos was a year ago they followed us. One
Shout
year
out
ago.
to Tim. Thank you, Tim. Or Chris. I think Chris from SiriusXM runs some of their social stuff. If it's you, Chris, we love you. The rest, whoever followed us, though, thank you.
Whoever was the one that followed us, you are our favorite.
Yes, just you. But anyways, okay. Plan tonight to keep us going in a direction. We'll figure out what that looks like. It is 45 minutes on the clock. Timer starts. We discuss. Timer goes off. That's it. We wrap up and we end this episode.
We're really going off of vibes. Again, this is what the beginning of the school year looks like for us. When we're busy, we have to keep to a time limit. So, we have our notes. We might ramble, but we've got our timer. So hopefully we'll see you at the end of all this. Hopefully we've talked over everything that we need to.
And timer starts now. Okay, Meg, where are you going to start?
I feel like since we've already previously talked about this, it might be worth just hitting it again with the willpower seat drama. I mean, I feel like this has just been the only thing that we have been hearing in terms of silly season, and just like making sure that we're all kind of up to date. I think the part that is, for me, I don't know about you, I might also be just totally skipping around on things, but the part to me that has been very frustrating about this whole thing has been, willpower has been in the hot seat, right? And that's all we're talking about, when in terms of Penske, he is the highest performing Penske throughout the entire season. He is the only Penske driver with a win this season. And you're hearing commentators and you're hearing sports pundits and you're hearing and reading articles and seeing Instagram and Twitter stuff. And then it's just like all of a sudden, all of that from willpower side of things has been completely erased for like the gotcha headlines and such, where it's like they're kind of ignoring everything that he has accomplished for Penske this season.
Well, not just this season. Like, it's also not taking into account the fact that he is the best qualifier in IndyCar history.
Yeah.
Full stop. He's the best qualifier. He has won multiple championships. He's won a 500. He is one of the best IndyCar guys that we have seen in a long time. He's definitely like one of the best we currently have on this grid. And the fact that, you take after his win in Portland, the way he talked, and it was like, we've had a great run. I don't want to say it feels like the writing's on the wall for willpower, but it kind of feels like this is a done deal in the eyes of, I don't think he's coming back to Penske, regardless of how he finishes out the rest of the season.
Which, honestly, if that is actually going to be true, like, I'm sorry, that is the dumbest decision Penske could make. Like, I am, no stranger to criticizing Penske, but just from an objective standpoint, that, like, this is so stupid of them to not, like, re-sign him and to not bring him back. So after his, like, win, like he said, if you're a team and wanting to know if I'm good enough, I don't know what you're thinking. If you're thinking, I'm not sure if this guy is good enough, just go back to last year and you'll effing know. Like, dude, go back to this year and you'll effing know. Like, it's just, it blows my mind that it's even a question. And then, the other part that I think bothers me about it too, and this is no hate to David Malukas at all, I think it's a little soon for him to be promoted into a team like Penske. And like, yes, sure, they might have comparable stats for the season. Like, I know they're side by side in the championship, or they were.
I mean, yes, but that doesn't take into the account the amount of DNFs that Will has had, including this past weekend in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I just, yeah, I think I agree with you. Like, it's no hate towards David, like him
No,
directly,
he's
but
a
it very much,
phenomenal driver, but he's a baby still. He still has so much to learn and so much to grow, and he needs to have, in my opinion, I think he needs to have more experience and have no, I'm not going to say that statement. I was going to say have a little bit better of a head on his shoulders. I'm sorry, look at willpower. But
at least, like, okay, he needs to prove he can win. Because he's
exactly.
had chances to, and it hasn't happened for a variety of different reasons.
Yeah.
But it's also just like, you go back to the beginning half of the season, Santino was beating him.
Mhm.
Santino has fallen off a lot of just like mistakes that have happened for various different reasons. But
Yeah.
like, you go head to head for most of the season. It's not like David was beating his teammate
No.
absolutely lights out. For it to be, if you were comparing Will Power and David Malukas, Will Power's career resume makes David Malukas look like a joke. And again, that's not me dogging on David. That's just he doesn't have the time. He doesn't have the experience to say that like he deserves the seat. And it feels like this was written long before the season even began. Of this
Yeah.
was it was, oh, David, you go do your year in Foy, and then we'll have that spot for you,
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yep.
We'll never know that. I think another issue I have with the situation is the fact that like Roger Penske, and this is coming from Will, but Roger Penske like has basically been like, well, you're not going to know anything till after Nashville.
Which is a
And when he was,
crazy thing.
that's crazy. But then it's also the like when it was like, oh, like is it going to be a couple days? And it was like, no, you'll probably know within a couple hours. Which again, to me, says it's a done deal.
Yeah.
They're just
They're
waiting for
just
the season to
waiting.
be over to be able to be done. But with that, they're not letting him talk to any teams. He can't talk to anybody else until after the season's done. And I'm like, you're doing a discredit to someone who has been in the sport and has won for you and understands Penske for this long, and you're just going to kick him to the curb. And I've heard people say if you look at Penske's track history, this is not abnormal. They did apparently the same thing with Simon Pagenaud, and like
Mhm.
they get to a point where they're, regardless of how well a driver's performing, it's like they've done their time with them, time for them to go somewhere else. I don't know. I think it's real to treat someone who's been in the sport for this long and has a win this season. And this is no diss to Joseph or Scotty. Penske's just had a really hard year.
Mhm.
There's been a lot of DNFs at no fault to all three drivers.
And don't forget the cheating. Sorry. Not
That's not on the drivers.
no.
Like that's not on the drivers here. And so for like Will Power to be the one who is managing to perform in a year that like Penske is really struggling, to be treated this way, I think just is,
It's a slap in the face.
it's a slap in the face to someone who doesn't deserve that.
No.
With that, where do you think he ends up?
Dude, I don't even know what's going to be open for next season, to be perfectly honest.
I mean, I think Will Power is that domino piece. We've seen in the world of IndyCar, multi-year contracts are not necessarily going to be multi-year. And if you can have the chance to get Will Power, why would you not take that? I think what's interesting, there's been kind of two main things that have been being tossed around.
Okay.
It seems to be like RRL as a big one. Will taking Devlin's seat in the 30.
I mean, like, fair, but okay.
And then the other one that Graham said himself on Connor Daly on Speed Street's podcast last week was that, like, for as far as Graham knows, RRL lineup is set to be the same for next year, and that he has a feeling that Will Power is going to end up at Andretti.
But I think we talked about this last episode too, about the potential for the Andretti seat to be open. I still don't 100% know how accurate that is in terms of like Marcus Ericsson's contract being renewed. Because I mean, he has the contract through next year. But again, as we know, contracts don't necessarily mean security in this world. But I don't know. That would be
So that is also like, are we
Will
giving
Power and Kyle Kirkwood as teammates after their debauchery.
it's on track stuff.
I think
They
it's
know how to
funny
check it.
though. That would be funny.
Well, then it's like, do we want to give any credit to the rumor that Colton's going to F2? And that's the seat that would come open?
Oh my god, I forgot about that. That is the dumbest rumor I have ever heard.
And the fact that you even asked Colton about it, like, I would have paid to see his face.
It's so
Could
funny.
you
Like,
imagine? Which, I mean,
ridiculous.
like, that goes into the fact that, like, Colton should already have his super license, like,
100%.
that's
But
an issue
like,
in and of itself.
yeah.
But, like, the thought of, like, Colton being like, "Yeah, I'm gonna give up IndyCar to go race in F."
Not even go to F1 where he has been linked several times to potential seats. No, F2.
F2.
Formula 2.
Because he's an American and we're not giving him a super license.
Like, my god. It's insane. But I mean, like, here's also the thing in terms of Andretti. We're really just bouncing all over the place.
That's fine.
Is
That's the
you
point of
have
this episode.
so true. Is that you have Dennis Hauger, who is the Indy Next champion for Andretti, and he is an incredible talent. I mean, I've been following his career for a while, and I think he's incredible. I think he did not get the opportunity he deserved in European racing because of funding and stuff, but he's absolutely completely outshined the rest of the Indy Next field. And everyone has been like, you just secured yourself a seat in IndyCar series, but it's like, where? Because he's an Andretti development driver. Like,
So is Christian Rasmussen. So is Kyle Kirkwood. Yes,
yeah.
Kyle's there now. He wasn't there his first season.
No. So, like, that doesn't necessarily mean like a one-to-one, but like, what influence does that have? Is he even going to get a shot? I think he should. For personal reasons, I would love to see him get his shot in IndyCar, but that is also kind of like a crazy accelerated path, but I digress. But like, there's that conversation to be had as well when it comes to, all right, well, is there even an Andretti seat to begin with? And who deserves that? Like, I think that kind of then goes into, teams' visions of the future for their teams. Like, are you going to go with a driver who, yes, has a tremendous successful history and career, but again, not a negative thing against Will Power, but he is getting older. Like, you have to think about the physicality of the sport. You have to think about the mental toughness of it all. And, at what point are we going to be like, well, when is an appropriate age? When is an appropriate time? That's going to be different for everybody, but that is going to be a conversation I think that is going to be had around Will Power and for teams that are going forward into, all right, well, who are we signing? Do you go with someone who has that, the track record, but also the questionable future? Or do you go for, the young studded star who, just won the championship, but doesn't have necessarily the driving career, but is going to be incredibly bright for the future? It's always going to be a risk no matter what for teams to take either side. It just really depends on what the team envisions for themselves.
See, I think if any team has the chance to take Will Power and they don't take it, they're stupid if they're able to have that opportunity. Because, okay, you're saying, oh, he's getting old. The man finished second last year in the championship.
Yeah.
Like, he's still very much, like,
That's why I
proving
said
he
it's
still
different.
has
It's
that
going to be
racing.
different for every single driver. Like, again, you also think about, you can have this age conversation in any sport. Think about in F1, you have, Lewis Hamilton, you have Fernando Alonso, Checo Perez was kind of up there in age. You had Sebastian Vettel, not really super old, but like one of the old guys, because I can do it because it's our podcast and I get to talk about him whenever I want. Tom Brady. Okay. He's old and he is a phenomenal athlete, and he was old when he was still playing. So, like, it's different for every athlete, absolutely, but it still needs to be a factor, I think, in these decisions is, well, what happens if he gets injured, right? Takes a really bad hit and he doesn't recover the way that you would think, maybe, I don't know.
The same could be applied to Scott Dixon, and people aren't saying that about Scott Dixon. So I think it's an unfair thing to say about Will Power when he's still proving that he is just as competitive now as he was in years past.
I mean, yes, agreed. I'm just saying that these are things that probably teams are going to consider. Do I think it's fair? No, because again, it's going to be different for everybody, but it is probably something that they're considering or at least talking about?
I think it'll come down to what is the bottom line. What is it? Is it Will Power wants to continue to race
Yeah.
because he enjoys racing, or does he want to be in a winning car?
Yeah.
And I think it's also the fact that, like, from Will's perspective, if it's wanting to be in the winning car, that gets a lot harder if it's not a car that's a Penske.
Mm-hmm.
Because the seats that are probably going to be available
Are not going to be
are
the quality that he's used to.
exactly.
But it's also going to be like, what teams are going to be able to afford willpower? You know, like what
Which
is
is then comes into Andretti. Andretti has kind of endless money right
Yeah.
now with Dan Towers.
Yeah.
I don't think we know until we know what is Will Power's next move. And I guess there's always a chance he stays at Penske.
That is
Or
also
they
very
pull a
true.
switcheroo. David goes there, he goes to Foyt.
Yeah.
And they keep that technical partnership. If it's the idea if he can take his whole team to
Mhm.
Foyt, have that technical partnership like that, I guess is also an option.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different avenues that this can go, and the reality is that we just don't know. And unfortunately, as well, Will Power doesn't know. So I guess we'll see for after Nashville. We'll find out a lot more information about where Will Power ends up, whether or not he stays, or if he is set free into the world.
I just don't want it to be Will Powers being forced into a retirement. He's not ready for, but also he has proven he is not, from a racing standpoint, he's not at that point of retirement.
Yeah, he's
That's,
still
I think, my
producing.
biggest fear
Yeah.
for Will Powers' sake.
Yep.
I
So
think let's touch on this very, very briefly because we knew this was coming. Alex Flo won the championship. Congrats to Alex Flo.
That is a shocker. I had no idea.
Honestly, I think that's all that has to be said. Congrats to Alex Flo.
Congrats. No, for real. What he has done, I think we've said it time and time again. I think everyone has said it. What he has done this season has been just incredible. He has been nothing short of perfection. And it has been it's been a blessing to watch. It's been fun to watch. And we've also said it on the podcast. He's such a nice dude that it's like, all right, I like to see this guy win, you know.
Generational talent, truly.
Truly, like, we are incredibly lucky to see what he is capable of, and you know, good for him. He's an incredible champion. So as sad as I am, my little sliver of hope for a Pato championship was kaput.
There was never a hope.
Listen,
There wasn't. Alex Plo, as soon as he won the 500, we knew it was his season. He figured out ovals.
yeah, he did. Yeah, that was our saving grace.
Speaking of figuring out ovals, this is actually about Portland, but it involves two drivers who are usually really good on the ovals.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts on Raz and Connor and everything that happened in Portland?
I mean, I think it brings up some really interesting conversations that I remember the Booth Boys were talking about during like Portland itself, but also just like discourse seeing online about the line of acceptable racing and the aggression and what is being allowed by race control versus not. And I don't know. I think what Ras did in terms of his aggression, yeah, he should not have done that. He does not care. But at the same time, Connor was doing some.
Connor hit him back. Connor
Yeah.
admitted that he did that.
Okay, so like for me, it felt very playground. You know, like I have had this conversation with third graders. No, I have had this conversation with first graders on the playground. Like, well, he hit me first, so like that means nothing. Like, just because he did it to you doesn't mean it's okay for you to do it to him. Like, I get the mentality of like an eye for an eye, and I think in certain situations, fine. But like when we're talking about going racing, an eye for an eye is a terrible mentality to have. That just leads to unsafe behavior. And we got very, very close to it being very bad. And we're incredibly lucky that, you know, Connor's fine. But, you know, that crash was a direct result of them both being unsafe towards each other and having, I don't know if you're going to want to put this in here, I can rephrase it, but like a measuring contest of like, well, I'm going to push you. Well, I'm going to push you back. Like, what do you expect?
Rossi worded it the exact same way.
Like, who did?
Rossi. He worded that the exact same way. think it's hard
It
because,
is.
I mean, Christian's developed a reputation of you don't want to go side by side with him. He showed that this weekend too.
I was about to say,
God,
he made us so nervous this
and
past
Packy, poor
weekend.
Packy, his poor spotter, Packy. I'm sure you're an avid listener.
I'm sure.
We were praying for you, bud.
We really were. We were sending you all the vibes.
I'm sorry he was stressing you like that. Like Packy begging him to stop.
This is like, all right, slow down. Like, you don't need to do anything more.
You don't have to pass anybody else. You've cleared him.
Like, slow and smooth. Like,
jumping way ahead on that
I
part,
know,
but,
sorry.
like, no, don't be. But it's just one where Christian, yes, he's developed this reputation of you do not want to go alongside him because he's not going to give an inch. I think Rossi pointed out, I think Off Track's honestly a good one to listen to because you're getting a view from drivers and both Hinch and Rossi and kind of their view on it, which was a little bit of opposing sides. But Rossi made a good point that it's like Christian gets this reputation of being a psycho or being a wild child or this absolute like menace on track. Joseph Newgarden races the same way on short ovals, but no one says these things because he's Joseph Newgarden.
Yep.
He has the pedagogy, not the pedagogy. That's what I do.
Okay, Miss.
We might also have pedagogy. I don't know Joseph that well. The pedigree,
Joseph
wrong
has
word.
pedagogy?
Maybe, I don't know.
Hey, Joseph.
He has the pedigree to where people say, oh, wow, that was an impressive move he made, not he's being reckless.
Yeah.
And then James, even did agree to that to an extent of when, Joseph was in his first couple of seasons, people did say, oh, he's being reckless.
Yeah.
And so that was like to Rossi's whole point of just being like, yeah, so why does it make what Christian's doing bad?
And
Yes, he's being, and I don't want to fully agree with that statement because I do think he is being reckless in some regards. I think there's a difference between refusing to give and putting yourself and other drivers at the risk of harm. And I do think we've seen that a little bit this season.
he toes that line very, very finely.
And because quite honestly, I mean, the first one, I don't think he intentionally tried to hit Connor. I think he just happened to hit Connor. Connor came back and hit him. Do I think Christian fully meant to run him off the track and whatever happened, and the one that ended up causing Connor to crash? It does, when you look at the clips from it, does seem that way.
See, I don't think it was intended to be as extreme as it was. I think it just happened. I think he intended to retaliate for sure, but I don't think he intended for that magnitude of crash to happen, which again, I don't think anybody does. But
I hope not. If they do, they don't need to be doing this.
No. But that's where the controversy comes into play is yeah, sure, no one is intentionally doing it, but it is a result, regardless of intention. Intent doesn't negate impact. Literally, the intention of you trying to pass someone does not negate the physical impact that they have into the barriers.
Because Connor hit at 60 Gs. And if he had been just a little bit higher, he was going over that barrier wall. That's just the fact of the matter of it.
Yeah.
And it was a very lucky situation that all Connor did was walk away without a toenail on his big toe. And a little bit of pain. But
a whole lot of attitude. He will not.
That's a normal day for Connor Daly.
I mean, fair. But he is harping. But again.
Honestly, I'm gonna be very intrigued to see. I guess the listeners will know at this point if they also listen to Speed Street. Will Connor have Christian on his podcast? Because he always interviews the race winners after the races.
Ooh, I can't wait for that.
We'll find out Wednesday. I'm very intrigued to see if Connor holds to what has always been the case of his podcast, or if he chooses to
that would
conveniently skip. I mean, he hasn't interviewed Alex Palou in a while because he got tired of interviewing Alex Palou.
Yeah,
but that's a little bit of a different situation.
That is a different situation when Alex Palou is winning every single race, and then you have
3 times. You run out of things to talk about.
Yeah,
the car's good. It's tuned in. I'm real good at this. Okay, thanks, Alex. Have a great day, man. But I think it also too, and I think what I'm seeing a lot online, you probably have been too, and hearing from drivers is that race control needs to be doing more.
Yeah.
Of saying this is not acceptable because it's not acceptable driving.
Yeah.
If you were, and I'm not saying Raz should have gotten a penalty because Connor's penalty was I think they both should have had penalties.
Yeah.
They were both driving angry.
Yep.
Connor admitted to, like, intentionally retaliating back. Like,
Which is a
they come in
crazy
and do
thing.
something about that sooner,
Yeah.
maybe it doesn't result in Connor's whole race being done.
Yeah. But in those moments though, too, you are heightened by adrenaline and emotion. Like, it's not going to change anything, I think, in the moment. I think what's going to end up happening, hopefully, what I would like to see happen is that race control gets better about dishing out penalties, even post race, even post you
Which we
crash
have
out.
seen this season. Like, when Santino ran Connor off track earlier in
Yeah.
the season, he got a penalty the next race.
Yeah.
Kiffin with
It's
whoever he hit in
inconsistent.
Laguna got a penalty too.
Yeah, it's the inconsistency that is, I think, the biggest issue for me. And like this is, I think, a thing that happens. It happened a lot in F1, in the F1 space, of just the FIA was super inconsistent with penalties and super inconsistent with dishing them out against who. It raised a lot of questions and concerns. I don't know what the end result of all of that with the FIA ended up being, or if there even is a resolution. I doubt it, considering it's the FIA, but like it's a cause for concern across motorsport. And we're the podcast that harps on driver safety probably more than anybody else. And at this point, the aggressive driving, the retaliations, the lack of consistent penalties, the lack of consistent rules, I guess, for what is considered acceptable driving on the line, that is going to result in some serious injuries or, I don't even want to think about how bad it can get, but it can. And we know this.
To that point, it's been a decade since we had a fatality on
Yeah.
track. Justin Wilson passed away literally a decade ago this past weekend
Mm-hmm.
in a practice crash, and we've been able to see the safety things, the introduction of the aero screen, the changes in the chassis to ensure that drivers are kept safe. And that's one side of this. It also comes from what is the racing on track looking like to
Yeah.
ensure that these safety measures being put into place, the safer barriers, having the walls, all that stuff, like, aren't them being tested to their full limit.
Because again, those types of innovations, that type of technology, they have their limits too. And you get aggressive driving, you get intense crashes, and all of these types of things. You are testing the limits and you are testing them frequently. And, the technology and those types of things can only go so far. You have to have the regulations, you have to have consistency with your rules that plays a part in decreasing the amount of injuries, decreasing the amount of danger. And it just seems like, oh, well, we have these safety measurements in place, so that means we can go to the fullest limit. It's like, well, no. Yeah, sure, I'm going to be riding a bike with a helmet and some knee pads on. That doesn't mean I'm going to be slamming myself into a brick wall. Yeah, I have safety tools, but I'm not going to be doing something stupid. There are rules. Like, it's ridiculous to me. And so I think to bring it back to the original point of Connor and Rass is they were both at fault. And I think a lot of people are, at least from what I've seen, I also haven't seen it in a hot minute, but more people were harping on Rass than were harping on Connor. And that is incredibly unfair. They were both doing stupid and they should both get penalized for doing stupid. So, Connor, you can feel your feelings for what he did, but you also, I know you said it, but you also did some, and you are also part of that problem. So,
And that's, yeah, like, that's the problem is, like, Christian didn't immediately drum up a very loud fan base to be, "Oh, sad, poor Connor."
yeah.
I mean, yeah, Connor crashed, and that's awful, and I'm glad he's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But he also played a role.
Yeah. 100%. Like he had a hand in this.
Mhm.
And then, again, going back to, well, the comparison of early Joe New. Like, at what point are we going to have that conversation? Like it also reminds me of like the early Max Verstappen, the really super aggressive. He got that reputation. And aggressive driving, sure, is a terrible thing, but it also is something that can be honed that I think comes with time. And Christian's still a very young driver.
It's his
And
first full season, and I think
yeah, so
people tend
like,
to forget that.
yeah, so he's still learning how to hone his aggressive skills because, like, clearly after Milwaukee, like, he put on a phenomenal show at Milwaukee with these crazy passes in the last, like, what, 15 laps of the race? He was on a flyer, and it was incredible to watch. It was beautiful to watch. It was like him cutting through butter with a hot knife. It was crazy. But, like, that's the type of aggressive driving that is deemed acceptable and okay, but that comes with time. That comes with learning. And not saying I agree with Christian whatsoever. I think what he did was stupid and aggressive, but it does come with time. Learning how to hone that aggression to be safe, knowing when to put it on the line, knowing where that limit is versus is a sticky situation that is going to be more dangerous than it is going to be successful.
Yeah, I think, and that's just part of it. He's still learning where
Still
is
learning.
that limit. That's
Yeah.
not necessarily, oh, he's doing something bad. He's a young driver learning the limit. Speaking of Christian Rasmussen, Meg, I do have to say, I think Ed Carpenter firing himself may have been the best thing that he ever could have done, if this weekend was anything to attest to.
Thank God he fired himself.
Amazing career move. Good job, Ed.
Great career move. Good job for firing yourself.
Like, truly, like, that's what we want to see in a team owner.
Honestly, because here's the thing is that, I think like a lot of these like owners who are also racers, they have this mentality of being a racer, which is a wonderful thing, but they still sometimes have this ego about them that they're like, well, I can still do this. And like, sometimes they can. I'm not saying that they can't, but you also, again, have to kind of recognize where you're at too. And I think the part that I really respected about the whole situation with Ed firing himself was that he realized that that was what was best for the team. Again, I was not an ECR fan at the beginning of the season. It was by proxy because of Rossi. But it was kind of like, all right, well, it doesn't seem that he's letting his ego get in the way of his business, which I really respected, So, props to you, Ed. You're here for it.
If you go back to me a year ago when Ed was still driving and how much I did
You-
not like that
You
man.
hated Ed.
Me and Ed had beef because I thought he
Did.
liked to complain too much. And you know what? He did like to complain too much.
You did.
But it's worked out okay.
It has worked out pretty well, but I will say, I can't believe that Ed was hiding Rasmussen from ovals for so long because he was a masterclass in Milwaukee this past weekend. It was incredible.
I think the funniest thing I've seen, and it goes to our intro, which is why like I have to make sure to shout out our friend Anna, who does listen to the pod. So like Anna, truly shout out, like you're great. And
This
we
is
adore
all you.
But there's a post made that was like, Christian was very much giving, I'm not lifting until I see God or a checkered flag. And like, if that's not so true, of like, he came out of nowhere and just like sliced past Joe Noob, got past his own teammate, managed to not hit him because that scared me for a minute. Sorry, let me back up. Got past both McLarens like it was nothing. Got past his own teammate, got past Joseph, got past Scotty. Then Alex Plow, only one next. And then went past him like it was actually the easiest thing anyone could do. And it's like, really?
It's crazy.
What's that easy?
Yeah. So here's the thing that I will say about that whole sequence of events. One, absolute chaos on that last restart. But then two was that his passes leading up to Pillow, beautiful, stunning. Not a single thing that I would say other than just cinema. His pass on Pillow is where I think you and I were very nervous texting back and forth the whole time of that's where he's on the line. And that is where, it could have ended so poorly coming out of, I forget even what corner it was that he overtook, that he ended up going side by side and passing. But he took the high line, so he was close to the wall.
I think it was Louis Foster when he was trying to get that space in between him and Pillow, where he kissed the wall and it was like, there's no more high line. No. Christian is every inch of kissing that wall.
And so
and holding your breath.
Yeah, so just clutching pearls. Oh my God, this is insane. But, it kind of goes back to what we were just talking about with him and Connor Daly, that entire situation of he's still learning what that limit is. And I think his Milwaukee run in those last few laps is a perfect example of that. His aggression served him and benefited him. And it could have gone very poorly if he ended up kissing that wall a little too much. And, he would have
We saw
taken.
how squirrely he was.
That
Every time they
was.
showed his onboard, it
Oh my
was like,
God.
and even before that last 15 laps, it was like they'd show his onboard, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is
He was
terrifying."
squirrely
Like,
for
he's
a
gonna end up
long
in a
time.
wall.
Yeah, he was squirrely for a long time. He was really just pushing that car. But like this is where that learning comes into play too, of just like, well, okay, so you have the aggression, you have that mentality. How can you do that safely? And I think his passes on the McLarens, his passes on Rossi and on Joe New and Scotty were exactly that. And then coming up to Pillow, that's where I was like, ooh, are you going to do the right thing? Is it going to turn out good or not? Because it could have turned out really poorly. But that's the type of experience that I'm talking about that he needs in order to learn where that limit is, because again, being as squirrely as he was, you learn how your car reacts. You learn as a driver how to react to that and adjust from there. So, we can say all day that, he was dangerous, he was doing crazy things, but like every race car driver is going to do the crazy thing. What is that Art and Senna quote? Like, if you don't go for the gap, something along those lines. Hold on, I want to.
Something. No one ever uses the full quote though.
No.
So like, I don't want to actually quote that because what people always quote is taken out of context
Yeah.
from the full
Okay.
quote.
If you no longer go for a gap that exists, you are no longer a racing driver. I don't know what the full context of that is. I'm going to be perfectly honest, but I'm like, I hear that quote so much coming from drivers themselves that it's like, that is such a mentality that they have. And that's not a bad thing, but at the same time, make sure you're safe.
Yeah, like it's very like you gotta live on the edge.
You do. Because that's how incredible first wins like Milwaukee Mile happen for Christian Rasmussen.
All the drivers who have not gotten a win yet, would that have been who you would have expected this season?
No, but I am so glad that it was.
Completely agree.
I am so glad that he was the one who got his first win. I'm so glad that that was the first win of the season. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, he's just a nice dude outside of racing. Obviously, I don't know him personally as a race car driver, but like when we've met him in the paddock, he's just like a nice dude. He's a little polite little cat.
Sitting behind my shoulder this whole time because I turned around and his car just right there.
He was like, I'm going to make sure that you say nice things.
You can be in the shot.
No, but it's like, it's the same way that I feel towards Pillow. Like, he's just a nice guy. I like to see him win. I think he's made mistakes and he has an aggressive nature that I think serves him well as a race car driver. He just needs to hone that skill. And I think people need to give him grace for that. And remember, this is his first win. This is his first full season. Like, he's doing phenomenally for that. And I'm like, I'm also just someone who cries at first wins, no matter what. I was sobbing like a baby. I thought it was so sweet. He was so excited. Did I win?
I also just want to say, speaking of nice guys, anyone who hates on Alexander Rossi and says that he is not a nice guy, get wrecked.
I mean,
Because
it has nothing to do with
way
the conversation, but I agree. I agree.
the way he literally sprinted from his car,
So-
jumped a fence to be the first
First
person
person.
to greet Christian, literally lifted him out of the car to be lift out of his visor so they could have that eye contact,
Visor.
celebrate his teammate's win. Do
Ugh.
not tell me that Alexander Rossi is not a nice guy.
No, he just got a very bad PR edit. And I honestly think that was McLaren. Like,
It was Andretti. It started there.
it started with Andretti. Okay.
It started with how he came into the sport.
And it's like, here's the thing is I feel a kinship with Rossi in terms of that type of, introvert black cat energy type vibes. It is incredibly misunderstood that just because you're not the golden retriever who's jumping at the bit that all of a sudden you're like the standoffish mean person. It's like, no, it's just it's a little more low key. Like,
He says it's like you have people and then you have people.
yeah.
He shows up for his people.
And I love that. He is such a nice dude. Which also, speaking of Alexander Rossi being the nicest person, he helped a couple get engaged in front of his car and just awkwardly shuffled out of the
Backed out. Like he was just like,
and like, I shouldn't be here.
so funny. So
Oh
good.
my god, it was so good. But I'm like, I love that. I love that.
We have 2 minutes left on the timer.
Okay, so then the one final thing I want to talk about is that Pato secured P2. Yep. Hey, my vice champion is second in the championship. So, yeah.
I guess that's it. When we come back, season's gonna be over. So I'm not gonna ask your Nashville. I mean, I guess I could ask your Nashville predictions. We could see if we're right. But like,
I
you
mean,
know,
Nashville predictions.
one person, top of your head, go.
Polo. I mean, he's inevitable. I love him though. Sorry.
Yeah. All right.
What about you?
Based on the pace in the ECR car, give me the 20. Alexander
Yeah.
Rossi.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna be really upset that we didn't go to Nashville like we talked about. But
I know.
that's
I
fine.
know. But listen, we're going to get to an oval.
Milwaukee's calling my name.
Honestly,
Wisconsin, here we come.
give me some good cheese. I want some
I'll
good
eat so
cheese.
many cheese curds. I'll be so happy. I love cheese.
I know. Okay, so we'll go to Milwaukee. I mean, we already knew this. We already confirmed.
All right. We'll be back, I guess, to wrap up the season next episode. Yeah, we'll be back next episode, wrap up the season, discuss who made the cut line, because I think that's something I haven't really been keeping up with much, but I think we have a pretty tight race down at the bottom for that leader's circle to see kind of where that money ends up. So that'll be, I think, something to see. Hopefully we'll know where Willpower's at. I guess we'll find out on that one.
I guess
we'll know if Christian went on Speed Street. We got that interview or not.
I hope to God we get that.
See, I'm kind of the camp. I hope we don't, because I think it's funnier that way. Connor being that petty, it's a little funny.
But just imagine the uncomfortable and awkward stares of just like, I don't like you. You don't like me. We're just sitting here.
Well, I don't think Christian dislikes Connor.
No, I just think it's
very one-sided.
Yeah, which makes it funnier.
Yes.
Connor's really good at that.
Come on the podcast anytime you want.
He's your parasocial frenemy.
Alrighty, follow us on the socials, Racing Thoughts Podcast on the things. We will see you in coming weeks.
We'll see you in the off season. That's so gross to say.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.